Hello, welcome back to episode 18 of Plat'n. Today we have Aiden Sam, who I'd like to apologize real quick for how long it's taken to do your review, mate, but we're here today. So, Aiden's account was started about 18 years ago, that'd be crazy, 11 years ago with GTA 4, Off the Boat being his first trophy, with his first platinum being in Uncharted 3. We have 669 games, giggity, for 561 completed games. So let's jump in. But before we do, if you would like your own list looked at, do leave it in the comments below or join the Platinum Discord, link in the description. Now, I'll see you in the list itself. Now, Aiden's account, quite frankly, is kind of crazy. There is over 1,000 ultra rare trophies on this account, which I love to see ultra rares, but let's jump into the list itself. We've got 10 Second Ninja X, that is about 57% completed, with only 2 trophies left for completion, so I'm guessing those 2 are both golds, where everything else is maybe bronze. 0.7% completion rate overall is definitely kind of crazy. We then have 2014 FIFA World Cup Brazil. This is unobtainable, as you can see the multiplayer here. All 16 of those trophies are no longer doable because the servers have closed. We've got a double stack of 36 Fragments of Midnight, our first double stack for the list. A bit of an easy peasy. I don't know my easy peasies, so obviously I will sort of gloss over those when we see them. But we then have 8 to Glory, which is another one I've never actually heard of. There's probably going to be a few of those given you have 669 games overall. We then have A Hat in Time. This is a very quirky sort of adventure puzzle game. I've heard the DLC in this is actually very, very difficult, which you can sort of see is reflected by the completion rates there, the platinum being 35% and the 100% being just shy of just over 2%, which is a crazy contrast in statistics right there. A virus named Tom, normally it's just called Symmetry. We then have A Way Out. I think this has been on every single list but mine at this point. 2-player, escape the prison. Very, very fun. I'm sure we will see things like It Takes Two later on this list as well. We then have Absolver, some Abzu, deep diving into the sea, some actual sunlight, which is something I've not seen in a very long time. Alexio, which it's just a duck with a bandana, and suddenly I know what my next platinum is going to be. We then have Alice Madness Returns, which is an interesting sort of take on the Alice in Wonderland story, where she essentially has a lot of things happen to her that are not great. She ends up in an asylum at one point. It's a whole thing. We then have Alien Rage, some Alien Nation. Ooh, our first kind of started but didn't really get into here in Amnesia Collection, which is one I have the platinum in myself because I'm just cracked like that. It's both Amnesia games plus the DLC for the first game. There's also a DLC they added years after releasing this for beating, I believe, the first game on the hardest difficulty. I need to go back and do that myself one day. I am curious, Aiden, is this one that you maybe plan on going back and cleaning up at some point? We then have Amnesia Memories, which I believe is the VR one that people have heavily recommended me play. Anarchy Rush Hour, we've got some Anna Extended Edition, which is actually a very difficult 100% there for the PS3, as you can see by the 5.86% completion rate. We've got some Another World, but the other one that's quite interesting here is Anthem with 13 of 47 trophies. And no surprise to anyone, this is not complete because this game did not do well at launch for a number of reasons. This was like a semi-open world EA answer to Destiny's existence, I guess, where you play as discount Iron Man, essentially. We've got some tennis here. We've got some Apex 100%, which I adore personally. Apex is definitely my favorite of the Battle Royale genre. I do need to get into the newest season. I haven't played it since the Sniper Legend was added. We then have Apotheon, which is one I really need to just sit down and do at some point. So Apotheon is like a Metroidvania side-scrolly game set in Greece, ancient Greece specifically. My issue with this game, because I played it for about an hour, you can actually probably finish it in about a day. As you can see, it took Aiden roughly a month. But my issue with this game is everything is very yellow and gold. very think like saturated sunset kind of thing. But the issue is the map is also gold, but it's semi-transparent. So it's like gold on gold. And I just couldn't see where I was, which made things very difficult. It's one I definitely plan on going back and doing myself at some point. So congratulations on that 100%, Aiden. We then have some arcade series in Dig Dug, Galaga, Miss Pac-Man, and Pac-Man, all classics, all from the arcade machines if you grew up in the 80s or 90s, like us old folk. We then have Arcado Series 01 Jump, which is one I've never heard of personally, but what I have heard of is Army of Two, The Devil's Cartel, which was a really fun PS3 first-person shooter series that never massively took off, but was a lot of fun. It was essentially you and an AI teammate taking on waves of enemies for a story. The second game, which I'm struggling to think of the name of, because it's Army of Two, but I can't think of what the subtitle was, is actually unobtainable. There was a trophy for designing a mask. Your characters essentially wear hockey masks, but you could design your own mask, and I think you had to upload it to the servers or something, which have since closed, so that trophy's unobtainable. But this one is not, so the Devil's Cartel you finished in 1 week and 5 days, so congratulations there. We then have some cricket, which doesn't surprise me given the country in which you come from. We then, here we go. It's tailored. This account's tailored for me. We get the Assassin's Creeds here with Brotherhood, Freedom Cry 2, 3 twice. Are You Okay? With Liberation, Black Flag, just the one time on the PS4. Liberation again, remastered. We then have some Revelations here, Syndicate and Unity. Now, what is very impressive about this list, aside from the fact that there's a bunch of Assassin's Creeds, is the Brotherhood and Revelations were both done on the PS3, which meant that you had to, and Assassin's Creed 3 too, which meant that you had to do the Employee of the Month in Brotherhood, you had to do the multiplayer in all 3 of those games, which, no easy feat. I can also see that you did all of them before server closures. Yeah, because you did, hold on, let's have a look here. Brotherhood in 2020, 3 PS3 in 2019, and Revelations in 2018, which, weird order to tackle those, but that is super nice to see that those multiplayers were done well and truly before the server closures. I love my Assassin's Creeds. I love this list right here. I do find it interesting that you haven't done any of the newer games. I'm guessing you were just very against the idea of Witcher clones, which I don't blame you at this point. Assassin's Creed Valhalla just released another DLC, and my soul hurts. Alright, moving on from this absolutely legendary list of Assassin's Creeds, we have Astrobot Rescue Mission, which is actually a predecessor of the Astrobot that comes on the PS5. This is a VR exclusive game. Besides that, I actually don't know much about it because I don't have VR. We then have Astros Playroom, which, like I said, is the inbuilt game on the PS5. Charming platform, a lot of homage to earlier PlayStation titles and devices. You see a lot of stuff like the PSP, the PS1, running out of devices to think of. The PS TV is in there. That's a weird one. I think those Buzz controllers from the PS2, like Quiz era, all make an appearance, which is kind of crazy. We then have, to round out the A's, Atomic and Ninjas. Alrighty, and moving into the B's, we have the Telltale Back to the Futures, which are actually some very early Telltales. I don't know if Back to the Future or Jurassic Park came first, but it's nice to see the entire, is it the entire collection? Are there 5 or 6 episodes? I think there's just the 5. I think you have the full collection right there. We then get into Band Hero, which is obviously from that era of plastic instrument games. Very difficult platinum with a 2.85% completion rate here. As you can see, it is actually unobtainable with 4 server-based trophies no longer being there due to server closures. We've got Bastion, which was made by the people that made Hades. I think this is the side-scrolly one. I think Platchums, fellow YouTubers there, shout out to them, did that game as one of their monthly, like, a game book club things. I think Bastion was one of their games for that. We then get into some nice Batmans here with Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, Arkham Knight, Arkham Origins, Origins Blackgate, which is the like Vita side-scrolly one, Arkham VR, and only the first Telltale series game. But super impressive there. I do find it interesting that you have done Nights DLC, but not Cities DLC. I do know that both of them are very notorious for the combat challenges, which, if anyone is curious, these are a series of map-based challenges where you've got to defeat enemies to rack up a multiplier for various different types of points. There's trophies for getting through the entire thing without being hit. There's trophies for reaching a certain amount of stars, which requires a certain amount of points. It's very difficult, but as you can see, Aiden's actually done the whole series there. It's always nice to see Arkham Origins, for example, which has quite a lot of multiplayer, and I know it's annoying multiplayer to boost. A very good friend of mine in Bruce, veteran of the Platinum Standard Discord, he did it recently, and I think he had issues where if you disconnected, you had to wait half an hour to reconnect or something ridiculous. So it is seriously impressive to see Origins with the 100% right there, due to how awful that is to actually boost. We then have Battlefield 5, that is around the time it was free on PS Plus, so I can see you just sort of picked that up and nailed it out whilst it was PS Plus. I think I did at the exact same time. Good multiplayer, awful campaign. The campaign was very, very boring. I do know that there is a cheese where you can just beat the game on easy, and at the final checkpoint for each chapter, just flick it to veteran and it will count. I didn't do that because I'm an idiot. So I played through that miserable campaign on the hardest difficulty, and it was boring to say the least. Beyond Eyes is a 100% that I'm not entirely sure of. As you know, if you are a long-time viewer, I do love my 100%. So it is nice to see a cheeky one right there. Beyond Two Souls, David Cage game. The only one that I haven't played personally. I've played Heavy Rain and Detroit Become Human. I've heard that this is kind of the most forgettable of the three, which I find the other two forgettable, so that's a terrifying concept. But you did not, and you smashed it out in 1 week and 2 days. We then had Big Bash Boom, which no clue what that is, but it is a juicy ultra rare at a 3.65% completion rate. But it did take you over a year to complete. We then get some Bioshocks here with, oh, this is interesting. Okay, so we've got Bioshock 1 and Bioshock 2 on the PS3, not complete. Now, I can definitely understand the second game that has multiplayer. In fact, I am curious, if we go into this, is it the multiplayer that you've started? No, okay, so you've just done, hold on. In a non-private match. This is the multiplayer. Yeah, okay, so you've done the you've done a portion of the multiplayer here, because you can see non-private matches, played at least one on each multiplayer map, which I do know there's DLC ones that can cause some issues. Have you done the DLC ones? I am curious. Okay, no, so you have not. So the Rapture Metro pack that you see here is also multiplayer. This use Rebirth to start again is essentially a prestige, and I believe it comes at level 65, which is not fun in the slightest. So good luck if you ever go back to that, mate. But you do have Bioshock Infinite complete on the PS3 in 1 month and 1 day, which personally I'm not the biggest fan of Bioshock Infinite. I love 1 and 2 quite a bit. I found Infinite just kind of, I mean, that story I felt dumber coming out of. The challenge map DLC pack I just thought was really, really obnoxiously boring. The Burial at Sea 1 and 2, again, same sort of thing, where it was just like, okay, cool, we're tying this into the first 2 games. I would have rather just kind of expand on what we have here. But yeah, it's an okay game, but I would definitely say the 1 and 2 hold a much more special place in my heart. We then have Birthday of Midnight, which is a 36 Fragments of Midnight sequel, spin-off, clone thing. It's an easy peasy, 37 minutes, 2 seconds for a 95.95% completion rate. We then have 200% here, which again, love to see them in Blindfold and Blood Knights. I think Blindfold is like an indie horror VR thing, and Blood Knights I have no idea of. But what is more curious to me about Blood Knights is what RR is. Is that retail release? I don't know what that stands for. So for those that are curious on PSMP, it'll show what region a game is if it's got specific regions. So for example, Birthday at Midnight here is EU for European, believe it or not. So I don't know what RR is. Because I've seen like DG, which is digital. That's popped up occasionally. Every now and then Australia has its own one. You've got NA, obviously. I think RR might be retail release, but I'm really not entirely sure. If anyone knows, do let me know in the comments, because I am genuinely actually quite curious about what that is. We then have Blur, which was a super underrated racing game. I know Dragon Dance in the Discord has been working through that himself. Shout out to Dragon Dance. I do know that this game can potentially bug on you and become unobtainable due to how old your save file is or something. It's something strange. I don't think anyone's actually dialed down why that game is as buggy as it is, but it is a lovely ultra rare, 1.51%, and a very fun racing game. I would definitely recommend this one if you are game to combat those potential glitches. Only one Borderlands here, with arguably the second worst Borderlands game. 3 is the worst. That is not up for debate. With it about half done, 35 or 64 trophies. The Australian accents in this game are brutal. Yeah, it's a struggle to get through those. But overall, the game's kind of okay. I like the lunar sort of mechanics. This one is set on the moon of Pandora, Pandora being the planet that you're on in Borderlands 1, 2, and partly for 3. So you're on the moon in this one. There's a lot of low gravity combat, which is very, very fun. The introduction of the ice weapons was a lot of fun. The characters were characters, technically. The story was pretty forgettable. I had a trophy bug on me in the Claptrap DLC, so I have to do an entire playthrough again if I ever go back to that game. But 35 or 64% is no laughing matter, and you've smashed that out. And hopefully you get the 100% at some point in the future. Hopefully that one trophy does not glitch on you as well. We then have some Bridge Constructor, which 33%, but I've heard that it's actually fairly tricky. We got some, wow, we've got Brink here. Brink being one of those games that I remember in the PS3 era. It was like a first-person shooter or third-person competitive shooter. It was hyped up as like the COD killer, like this was going to be the big multiplayer everyone was going to play, and it flopped hard. It flopped so badly. It's an ultra rare, so that's always nice, with a 4.68% and a 1.46% completion rate overall, which is really cool. It didn't take you too long either, with 5 days and 8 hours, so I've never actually looked at that trophy list. Maybe it's not too bad to smash out, but definitely one I would be not curious on doing myself, but it is interesting seeing here, given its little piece of PlayStation history right there. Got some Broforce, got some Broken Age, which is always a nice one to see, just shy of the ultra rare. We then have an episodic game here in Broken Sword 5. We've got episodes 1 and 2. I am curious, did the rest of the episodes ever come out? Because I do know that's a thing for some of these early PS3 and Vita episodic games, where they would release a couple of episodes and then not release the rest. Thankfully, these aren't in the same list, because I've seen that happen as well, where the game's all one single list, releases a couple episodes, doesn't release the rest, and everyone's stuck with unobtainables, which is never fun. Brother, A Tale of Two Sons. This is a very charming little indie game where you and your AI brother essentially explore a little world. It's very, very short, with a 9-hour completion. It's one that is free on PS Plus Extra, and is one that I'm very tempted to do myself in the not too distant future. Bugsnax 100%. I adore Bugsnax. It is one of my favorite games I've played this year. Think Pokemon, or Pokemon Snap specifically, but you are capturing them instead of taking photos of them and then feeding them to the local inhabitants. It's a lot of fun. The trophy list is very, very cruisy, but I quite frankly adored the game. Although that DLC was a little bit grindy, I definitely had issues with the trophy for fully customizing your house. I think I had to do like 90 side missions before I got my last decoration, which was kind of frustrating. We got some Bullet Roulette. It's roulette, but it's in VR. It's actually a fairly high completion rate. I'm surprised that you haven't knocked out those remaining 2 trophies, Aiden. We then have Bulletstorm, not 100%. I love Bulletstorm. It's a game that couldn't be made these days. It's very offensive. But I am curious, is it the one multiplayer trophy? Is it the one that I think you need 1 million score? And so essentially what you do is you and a partner go to a map that has like a tornado black hole thing in the middle, and one of you kicks the enemies and one of you whips them afterwards to get the best like combat and multiplier, and you just do that for like 2 hours. It's very boring, but I am curious. I do want to see what it is that is stopping you from the platinum, because I'm gonna say it's that trophy. Let's have a look here. Yes, okay, 40,000 as a team in Anarchy mode. Yeah, okay. So I think you earn like 100 XP from doing the method that I do per kill. So it takes about 2 hours. It's very boring, but I reckon if you're able to get someone to link up with that, I think there's a few people in the Discord that are eyeing up Bulletstorm at some point. You could definitely complete that at some point very, very soon. Got some Bullseye, some Bunny Raiders, which is an easy peasy, I think that has popped up a few times in this series, some Burly Men at Sea, and of course Burnout Paradise on the PS3, which is now unobtainable due to server closures. 25 trophies is kind of crazy, but I will say that the PS4 version does exist and is fully obtainable. I kind of want to do that version myself at some point, potentially. Very, very fun game. I do wish we got more Burnout games at some point. We then move into one of my other favorite series to see here in Call of Duty. I always find these very, very impressive. See the Plat's and the 100%. It's looking like, just from a brief skim here, you really don't like Zombies DLCs, or you really don't like paying for them because they're always ridiculously priced. But we have Advanced Warfare twice with the Platinum. The Exo Zombies DLCs have not been touched because I do know that it's 51 trophies for the Platinum. I need to clean this up myself. I have a lot of these, again, where I too have been slowly working through Zombies. I actually did the Cold War's Platinum about 3 days ago. I think I knocked that out. As you can see here, you also have Cold War. You do have the first Black Ops Platinum here. I'm going to say 38. Hold on. What are you missing in Cold War? I'm going to say it's definitely Dead Ops and it's some zombies. Yeah, so you haven't done Mama Back, which in first-person mode with the checkpoints is not too bad. I struggled at 2 areas. I struggled at, I think it was wave like 45 as the blood pools. That sucks. And then the final area with Mama Back was also pretty rough, but I also was smashed hard with bad luck when it came to the drops. So it's not too bad at all. I definitely would say you can definitely get it done in about 4 to 5 hours. And I'm going to say you haven't done the Easter egg. You have not done the Easter egg. And of course, 10 squad wipes in Fireteam. So 10 squad wipes in Fireteam. Let's talk about that trophy real quick. You need to kill an entire team in the mode Fireteam, which is usually teams of 4. But there is a mode that pops up every couple of months that is Fireteam Duos. That is how I did it personally. I actually got the entire trophy in a single match, just because it's so much easier to kill 2 people than it is 4. So maybe keep on the lookout on that. The hard thing about these Call of Duties is they're so big in file size that it's hard to keep them on your account and just check in periodically. But I would definitely recommend that method instead of trying to kill 4 people every match. We got some Black Ops Declassified, Black Ops 3's Platinum. I adore seeing this one. This is one I just need to sit down and finish. I have like 12 guns I need to max out, and the VR challenge, and that is it. Oh, and the zombies, but you don't even need to do the Easter egg for Black Ops 3's base game. We then have Ghosts at Platinum, but not the 100%. This is another super impressive one. Ghost did this interesting thing where it brought in like an aliens mode instead of the regular zombies. We then have a lot of Modern Warfares here with Modern Warfare 2, the 2 PS3 ones. Love to see the Spec Ops right there done. Modern Warfare 2 campaigns remastered. 3's 100%. Modern Warfare remasters 100%. Vanguard. Oh, such a bad zombies. Campaign is great in Vanguard. Multiplayer and zombies, poo. And we're rounding out the CODs with one of my personal favorites in World War II, so it definitely hurts me to see that without the Platinum. Aiden, get onto that one. I believe in you. You've done enough COD that I reckon you can smash out at least the Platinum in World War II. Definitely a series that I love to see. I would love to see Infinite Warfare on here potentially. That is one that I plan on doing hopefully by the end of this year. I also need to finish up Black Ops 4 at some point, which now that I'm thinking about that, I'm scared. We then have the Call of Juarez series here with Bound of Blood, Gunslinger, and the Cartel. The Cartel being such a bad game that it killed that series dead. The first two games are Western first-person shooters, and the last one, though, the Cartel, is like this weird modern one. It's very much a Michael Bay action set piece from start to end. We then have Carnival Games VR Carnival Games. I think this is the mini games version. Carnival used to be like a theme park builder, but I think Carnival Games is specifically just the mini games that you would traditionally find in those. We've got Cars 3, which is of course the Pixar movie tie-in game. Some Casey Powell Lacrosse 18. Wow, a lacrosse game. That is unobtainable. 0%. Oh, 0% right there. Okay, now I'm curious. 2 trophies have never been obtained by a single person. I want to see what they are. The Platinum, obviously. Create and share a team in the Academy, 0%. Did the Academy just never get released? Oh, that's awful. So for those that are curious at what lacrosse is, for example, any fellow Australians, lacrosse is not really a thing here. It's like, think hockey, but you can pick the ball up in like an oversized spoon. You can shoulder charge one another and you can run with it. It's like hectic. It's great. I played it very briefly at school, but back when I had hair. But that is crazy that is a 0% completion rate. I'm definitely sorry to see that there, Aiden. We then have some Castle Storm, another 100%. You know I love them. I think this was like a tower defense sort of thing from memory. Cat Lateral Damage. This is a game where you play as a cat and you try and destroy as much things as you can in a room for points in a time limit. Child of Light. This is the Ubisoft side-scrolling adventure game where like all the dialogue is in poems and like poetry and stuff. It's a really cool concept. I just didn't like the controls. I need to go back to that. As you can see, it looks like you didn't enjoy the controls either, because it's like a 9-hour game and it took you a year and 2 weeks. So I should go back and do that. I should definitely go back and do that game at some point. Clockwork Tales of Glass and Ink. This is like an I Spy game. You have like a scene that's filled with items and you have to find where those items are hidden. Code Realize Guardian of Rebirth. This is one of the Code games. I think Code Veronica or something is another one of them. Coffin Dodgers. Old People Mario Kart. It's an easy peasy. Smash it out in 2.5 hours. Color Guardians is another one that I think we've seen a few times. Conan Exiles 100%. You paid for that DLC. That is dedication, my friend. I saw that DLC come out and I went something like this. No. One day when it's on a deep sale, I will clean that game up. But bad game. Thankfully, you can just use the dev menu to pop quite a few of the trophies or set them up. I think you need one other person for one trophy. You've got to drop a rock on someone's head, or you've got to jump on someone's head or something like that. We then have Concrete Genie 100%. I love to see that 100%. I cannot get it myself, tragically. So it is nice to it's nice to see that you've belted that one out there. Got some Contrast, which was like a weird shooter from memory. 100% on the PS3. We've got some Control. This is the Paranormal Bureau of Investigation's spooky, floaty, concrete throwy game. It's okay. The story's a bit of a confusing one. I definitely didn't know what was going on exactly 100% of the time, but it is always nice to see the 100%. I think it was the Ore DLC was incredibly boring, but the rest of the game is actually quite a lot of fun. Costume Quest is a side-scrolling RPG that I've heard actually quite a lot of good things about. It's one that I should tackle myself. Counter Spies 100%. This is unobtainable due to server closures. As you can see there, one unobtainable trophy, but the game was a lot of fun. I played this very briefly on an old account. We then have the Crash Bandicoots here with the first game, the second game, the third game, all 100%. You've even done the DLC. I love to see that. I know a lot of those time trials and stuff can definitely be very time consuming and very frustrating. You haven't finished About Time, probably just because it's massive. Like, there is so much stuff you've got to do for that plat. So many time trials. I think you've got to do all the levels again in like reverse or something, or inverted colors or something ridiculous. Definitely a very tricky one, but definitely one I believe that you are fully capable of smashing out at some point there. We do have Nitro Fueled complete here though, which is a very, very nice one to see. I found this one funny. I loved this game as a kid. I had it on the original PlayStation or the PlayStation 2. I always get the two Crash racing games mistaken. I think, was it Crash Team Boom Bang Brash Racing or something is the other one? I think I played it more, or Tag Team Racing. Crash Tag Team Racing, that's what it's called. I played that one more than Team Racing, but yeah, I don't know. This one just didn't grip me as much as the original did when I was a wee young lad. We then have Crazy Taxi, which is of course a port from the famous arcade game from the 90s. We've got some more cricket. We've got a lot more cricket here. We've got Cricket 19 and Cricket 22. Come on, man, where's 20 and 21? As an Australian, it's always nice to see cricket games getting some love here. I am hoping for the rugby later on. I'm definitely hoping to see some rugby as well. We've got some Crisis here with the first game and the third game. The first game's very impressive to see here. I'm not surprised that we don't see Crisis 2, given how annoying that multiplayer was, but you have smashed out the Platinum in Crisis 3. These are first-person shooters where you play as a man, essentially in a super suit. You can use camouflage and stuff. I believe you're stopping an invasion on North America or something from memory. It's been literally decades since I've played these games. I know that they've been remastered on the PS4. I know that the first remaster is on PS Plus Extra, so maybe I'll go and do these at some point. Alrighty, and moving into the Ds, we have the Danganronpa games with V3 Killing Harmony and Trigger Happy Havoc. We've got some Dangerous Golf, which is golf but dangerous, believe it or not. We've got some Darksiders in just the first game. This is the Metroidvania one. A lot of the whole Darksiders series, every game is slightly different in terms of genre. We've got a Skyrim clone there. We've got a Dark Souls clone there. We have a Diablo clone there in Genesis. But moving on, we have some darts, which is a really cool one to see. I don't think I've ever played a darts video game, so that's kind of interesting to see there. We've got some Datura, some Day of the Tentacle. Days Gone's 100% is really good to see. I'm impressed by that because I played some of those challenges and I hated them. This game is very slow and realistic. And then you get to the DLC and they try and add like an arcadey point scoring system and time trial on top of that. And it just does not work, in my opinion, at all. But you smashed it out in 2 weeks. And you can see a lot of people agree with me because the Platinum is just shy of 30% and the 100% is 1.24%. So that is a massive skew. We then move on to some Daytona and then some Dead by Daylight. In fact, you're only missing 2 trophies for the original list's 100% and the additional chapters you are working through, which definitely tells me that you are a frequent Dead by Daylight player. We actually have quite a lot of Dead by Daylight players in the Discord. I think Bruce Man is the current fastest achiever of the 100% for the additional chapters. So shout out to my good friend Bruce for the second time in this video. I'm just doing that so he doesn't make me play awful games. We then get some Dead Space here with the first game. And then we also get the spin-offs, which are really cool to see. One of these is like an on-rails shooter. So you've just got the point of the gun. Interesting. And then the other one is something weird as well. It's like a puzzle game or something from memory. I don't remember which one is which, but it is interesting to see both of those and not Dead Space 2 and 3. Are they 2 games that are potentially on your list? I do know that Dead Space 3 does require a lot of multiplayer and isn't as good a game, but it is a lot of fun with a partner. We then have some Deadly Premonition, which is another one that I've always been very interested in maybe doing myself. PS3 games are a can of worms for me. I've never added one to my account purely for the fact of I'll want to go back and do so many of them. We then have some Destroy All Humans with the first remake and then the original. Sorry. Yes. Okay. It is. Let me get this right. I think that these are the two ports of the PlayStation 2 ones, because we have since got remakes of both 1 and 2, with the second one coming out like this month. And I think we've got rumored that the first remake is PS Plus for October, which I'm sure I'll be doing videos on those when they drop. But yeah, I think these are the two original PS2 ones. We then got Detroit Become Human, which nearly guarantee locks in that we're going to see Heavy Rain at some point on this list as well. Detroit Become Human, it's the robot one. Do robots have emotions? Do we treat them fairly? That sort of fun stuff. I found the game very, very dull. I'm guessing you did too, given the 6-month completion rate. I think that's about as long as it took me as well. We've got some Dino Dini's Kickoff Revival. This is a baseball game, I want to say. I think that's baseball. We then have some Dirt, which I'm sure a few people in the Discord and in the comments will appreciate, with Dirt 3, Dirt 4, and Dirt 5. Rally 2 has not been completed, however, and it is the rarest platinum there with a 1.97%. I think due to some time trials, but I could be wrong on that. I have wanted to do Dirt 5 for a while, actually. I've owned that since I think it was free on PS Plus, and it is one that I do want to give a crack at some point. We then have some Dirt Showdown. That again is part of the Dirt series. I just didn't see it in my initial skim through. We got some Disc Jam. This is a very early game. This is like a DJ game from memory, right? I think this is the DJ one, which is kind of cool to see. We've got some Dive Kick, some Devil May Cry. I think that is the remaster. I've actually never played the Devil May Cry, but they are very, very fun action hack and slashes, kind of like God of War. I think didn't Devil May Cry come as a byproduct of the development of Resident Evil 4, funny enough? There's some little trivia for you. We got some Don Bradman here. Again, more cricket. It's cool to see a cricket fan. I personally don't watch it, but I used to play it quite a bit as a kid. So it is very cool to see quite a lot of cricket here, and two very beefy ultra rare platinums with a 1.46 and a 1.30 respectively. We've got some Don't Die Mr. Robot. Wow, that is another very low completion rate there, 2.22. I looked at the thumbnail and thought that was an easy peasy. I was very, very wrong. We then have Doom 2016. I've heard that a game that came out, I think like 3-4 days ago, Proteus, is very similar to this. I'd be interested to see if that is on your radar, because you played to the 100%, which means that you prestiged, 7 times, I think, for those trophies. All of the DLC in Doom 2016 is multiplayer based. This game is very, very fun. I still need to try Doom Eternal myself, and it looks like you do as well. Draw Slasher. We've got some Drive Club here, which was like Sony's big answer to racing games that promptly then expired all the license plates and the brands of cars and made them all unobtainable, unfortunately. As you can see, 7 trophies unobtainable in Drive Club, 4 in Drive Club Bikes, and then VR has 3 unobtainable trophies. But you did smash them all out for 2 juicy ultra rares right there. Again, Aiden Sam has over 1,000 ultra rares, and I'm low-key very, very jealous. We then have some Ducati 90th anniversary. This is a bike racing game. Some DuckTales, some Eat Lead, Eat Them, eFootball 2023. I think this is like, is eFootball what PES became? Because as you can see there, eFootball PES 2021 season update, which was like a weird, as you can see, it's unattainable, but it was like a weird thing where they didn't release like a full title for PES. They just released like an update for the season or something that had its own trophy list. And then as you can see in 2023 or 2022, the 2023 game, I hate the way that soccer games do this, it's just called eFootball. And I think that's what Pez has become, right? Do correct me if I am wrong in the comments. We then have some Energy Cycle. This is like a fairly early on, easy peasy, 96%. I think this is press some colors or something. Entwined with a 1.37% is definitely very, very impressive to see. We've got some epic word search collection here. We've got a double stack of that, one on the Vita, one on the PS4. Some Erica, which I think is the movie, like, cutscene-y, telltale-y sort of game that was free on PS Plus. I think you've got to beat it like 7 times. Some Ether 1, which is a walking sim. Everybody's Gone to the Rapture is another walking sim. We then get into some F1 here with F1 2011, 2020, and Race Stars. One ultra rare platinum, but all of them are fairly good. F1 being the racing Formula 1 sport in real life. We got some Fall Guys. You did not get all the trophies before the servers closed. The original stack of Fall Guys is unobtainable because Epic bought it and changed the launcher that loads the game, unfortunately. And weirdly, the trophies were tied to that and not your profile for some reason. I am curious, what trophies are you missing? Because it looks like you didn't play the game when you could do the 5 wins in a row in private lobbies. So I am expecting that. Yep, 5 in a row. You did not do it at that time. You played when the game essentially released. I think it released in August of 2020. You played it in September. Win 20 episodes. Win an episode as part of party of 3 or more players. Okay, so it was all win-based stuff, but you did knock out the rest of them. I do know a lot of people struggle with the get first place in racing round 20 times. And you did get that with no dramas. So it is impressive to see that you did get 86%, and I am sorry to see that the rest of those trophies are sadly unobtainable for you. We then get some Far Cry 2. I have some very good friends doing the multiplayer in this at the moment. In fact, we've got a whole bunch of Far Cry's here, which I love to see. With Far Cry 3, 3 Blood Dragon, 3 Classic, which is the remastered PS4 one, minus the multiplayer. Far Cry 4, Far Cry 5, Classic, which is the original game ported to the PS3. It was completely different because it actually wasn't made by Ubisoft. It's like a first-person one, but you fight like aliens on a tropical island or something like that from memory. I played this way back. I think it came out in like 2006 or something like that. And then Primal, of course, to round them out. So you've done everything but Far Cry 6. And New Dawn, which I don't blame you. New Dawn is not particularly good. It's like the Far Cry 5, but about 10-15 years later from memory. Very, very forgettable. I think I did the whole platinum in like a day, and that was a sad day. We've got some farming simulator right here, which as a farming bloke, it's always nice to see these. I think this is the one that came out on Plus. I think you can like exploit it using money cheats and stuff. So maybe do look into that if you do want to clean up those remaining trophies that you have there. Fat Princess is always a lovely one to see here. I didn't know it was on the Vita. I did know that it was on the PS3. We got some Fez. Ooh, oh no. Oh no, we're into the unobtainable FIFAs. FIFA 09, servers closed. FIFA 10, servers closed. FIFA 13, servers closed. You did get the 100% in 15 though, so good work there. 17 is not unobtainable, but it is a 1.33% platinum, which is very juicy. So that's one I would definitely be looking into. We then have FIFA 22. So I'm guessing you got very sick of FIFA being the exact same game every year with the 5-year break right there. And then you did it again this year because I think FIFA 2022 was the free one on PS Plus, right? And you've smashed that out for the 3.66% ultra rare, which is really cool. And then we have FIFA Street, which was actually a interesting spin in that it was slightly different than every other FIFA. I think it was just a street one, so you played it in back alleys and stuff like that, as opposed to big stadiums, and it was like a 3v3 instead of full teams or something. It was a cool concept. I remember playing it a tiny little bit back in the day. We got some Paugi here. I think this is our first Paugi for the list with 50 words, twice easy peasies. All Paugis are easy peasies as far as I'm aware. And boy, it'd be funny to see that there was an ultra rare one or something like that. Philipix, Phil's Epic Adventure, easy peasy. We got some Firewall 0 Hour, which is like a first-person VR shooter that is very, very difficult, hence the 0.41% completion rate. I know that some of the trophies are very, very tricky. I know there's things like shooting people across the map, which requires absolutely precise aiming and stuff like that. I think my good friends at Missing Collectible have attempted this on and off through the years, for example. We've got some Firewatch, which is 100% that I would love to do at some point. It's got DLC, right? Firewatch has DLC, I believe. It does. Okay, in fact, half the list is DLC, so that's interesting to see there. Firewatch is a game where essentially you are out in the deep wilderness in a tiny little fire tower, and then some shenanigans start to happen, and you go to investigate them using just a walkie-talkie that has access to one person in the outside world. It's very interesting concept, and definitely one that I do want to give a crack at some point in the near future. We've got some Flow, we've got Flower twice, Flower being an early game from the devs that ended up making Journey. We've got some Foul Play, which I think is like a guessing game that you play with friends, if I'm not mistaken. 4.85% completion rate is always very nice to see. We've got a hefty chunk of Friday the 13th. I'm guessing the trophies that you have left are things like play Jason 1,000 times, escape 1,000 times as the counselors. It's all big and grindy. I did Predator Hunting Grounds very recently, which is made by the same devs, and oh, do they just love to make very grindy and long and boring trophies. Although, at least with Predator, there's no tracking. Oh, there's no tracking. There's no tracking, and there definitely isn't in Friday the 13th. But if you ever smash out the rest of it, that 0.88% platinum will be a very impressive one. Friday the 13th Killer Puzzle is another nice one to see here. This is like a little puzzle game based on Friday the 13th, believe it or not. We've got some Frogger, we've got some Frozen. Frozen Synapse Prime is unobtainable with 7 trophies not achievable, which I am sadly noticing is about how many you've got left. So that's unfortunate to see there. We've got some Fruit Ninja, some Fury on the PS4. This was released again on the PS5 very recently. This is like a, how would I describe Fury? It's a good game. I would definitely recommend this to people. Is it like a, would you call it like a bullet hell? It's hard to describe, but it is it's a very, very good game. We've got some Furman, some Fuse, some Futuridium EP Deluxe, which I have no clue what that is. Telltale's Game of Thrones. Yeah, I've talked about this one in depth as to how I think they could have improved this. Just do it in the War of Five Kings. Don't do your weird timeline stuff. Ghost of Tsushima's 100% very impressive. You got to do a lot of raid stuff. There's a lot of DLC. You got to beat the game twice for New Game Plus, I believe. So very, very nice to see that. You beat it in 4 months and 3 weeks on the PS5, which I can imagine this game is very beautiful on the PS5. I sadly have the PS4 version, and I do need to go back and do those raids at some point. Goat Simulator's 100%. Flappy Bird, congratulations for beating Flappy Bird. Every now and then I fire it up and have a crack. Every now and then I get infuriated and stop. We've got some God of Wars here with the 2018 game, God of War 3 on the PS3 and God of War Ascension. I am curious, do you plan on doing the rest of the series? Maybe those would be good ones to smash out before Ragnarok releases in November. Gone Home, this was free on PS Plus. You're essentially exploring a house, trying to work out where the rest of your family is, uncovering events that have happened in the past involving your family. It's interesting. It's interesting. One of those trophies to speedrun the game, I think in under a minute from memory, right? I think you got to beat it in under a minute is actually pretty tricky. But very, very fun game and one I would definitely recommend. We've got some Gran Turismo. These are more races. GT5 is unobtainable due to server closures, but 6 is obtainable. And I know that 5 in particular is very, very tricky. You've got to unlock the number plates, which involve essentially getting a steering wheel for the game. I think it's nigh impossible using just a regular controller. We've got some Grand Theft Autos here in 3 on the PS4, 4 on the PS3, and 5 on the PS. Oh, you've got 5 on the PS5, on the PS3, and it is 100% because the servers have long since closed on this. I love to see that completion rate right there. I know trophies such as Run Like the Wind are ones that have haunted many GTA 5 players over the years. So that is a absolutely fantastic one to see right there. That is definitely one I really like seeing that complete. We've got some Gravity Rush Remastered. This is a game that I really need to try at some point. I am curious. I'm noticing, is that a mark on my, hold on, we're doing some, oh, it's just a mark on my monitor. It's okay. I looked at that, on me looking at the screen, it said minus 24.89%, and I was really curious. Turned out it was just a bit of dirt on my monitor, because I'm a filthy boy. But, all right, video's over, and I'm cancelling myself. But, 24.89%. I've heard very good things about Gravity Rush. I heard it carried the Vita for a good long while. We've got some Grid 2. This is another racing game, another juicy ultra rare alongside Grid Autosport, which is an even beefier ultra rare there at 1.99%. These are racing games, obviously. We've got some Grim Fandango. This was made by LucasArts. You play as a skeleton detective. I think it's based over a number of days from memory. This is another one that I, at some point, just need to sit down and do. Got some Grow Home and Grown Up, both 100%, both complete. We're seeing a lot of 100%, and I'm all for that on the account. And I'm starting to see a series that I'm super impressed with down here. Guacamelee is not that series, but these are more good games. You play as a luchador, that it looks like Guacamelee or something. I've heard very, very good things about these games as well, and I do own Guacamelee 2, I want to say. Or is Guacamelee 1 also on the PS4? I own one of these, I just don't know which one it is. We then get into some Guitar Hero right here, with Guitar Hero 500%, live 100%. I think this is the one where you had to strum a million times. Metallica, which, amazing band. Love to see that. As you can see here, all the servers for all of the Guitar Heroes are now closed. Warriors of Rock, making them all unobtainable tragically. But you do have 5 and Live, which are both sub 1% platinums, which is, oh, delicious. You love to see it. You love to see it. Moving into the H's, we have Hades at 100%, which is, I think, my worst completed game on my own account. I only have 1 trophy in Hades. I really need to go back and get that done at some point. We've got some Handball 16. I believe this is European handball and not Australian handball. European handball kind of being like soccer, but holding the ball. We've got some Hardware Rivals where the servers did close at the end of last year, I want to say. As you can see here, all unobtainable. You hate to see it, but you, however, have a juicy 2.75% completion rate. So, all platinum. So, good work there. We've got some Haterfo Boyfriend. This is the game where you date pigeons. We've got some Heavy Rain, which I believe I predicted way back when we saw Detroit Become Human. Once you have one David Cage game, you have all of the David Cage games, is a recurring theme on this series. We've got some Hellblade Senua Sacrifice. This is a game that tackles a lot of sort of mental stuff. It is one that I definitely very, very much want to see how all that is handled. Her Majesty's Spiffing. This is a game where you play as a pair of British astronauts going into space. I believe it's fairly easy peasy, but it's also fairly good. Here They Lie. This is a 100. Well, we've got a lot of 100% here. Hold on. Here They Lie and 3 HRQ Aces, which are easy peasy puzzle slider games, but it is always nice to see a series completion. We've got some Hitman here with the first of the World Assassination trilogy. You haven't done Hitman 2 or 3. 3 having all 3 games bundled into one little package. Definitely recommend going back and doing that one. It is very, very good. We've got Hitman 2 Silent Assassin. This is the port of the original game from the early 2000s. Hitman Go is the sliding like puzzle game. And then we've got Hitman Absolution, which is the kind of not as popular linear sort of action-based one that does have a couple trophies that are unobtainable in the PS3 version due to server closures. Got Horde, Hook'em, Home. We've got some Homefront: The Revolution, first-person shooter where I believe you are defending the US after it has been invaded and conquered. I believe Homefront: The Revolution is the second game as well, and it's also fairly buggy, so congratulations on that 100% right there. We've got some Horizon Chase Turbo, which is a sort of arcadey racer. Horizon Zero Dawn, open world, Ubisofty open world sort of game. Shame they never made a sequel. We've got some horse racing and some tennis. We've got a real variety of sports here. It's cool to see an account that is so big on like all the various different sports. Like imagine seeing a handball game. That's definitely very cool. Hotline Miami, this is like a top-down sort of think the original Grand Theft Autos. Very, very good game. I do know that getting all the masks can be troublesome for some people. Got some Humans Fall Flat is one that I do really want to do at some point very, very soon myself. It does release a million DLC all the time though, however. We've got some Hustle Kings, which is does have some unobtainables. Yeah, okay. In fact, it's got about the same amount of unobtainables as trophies you've got remaining, which does suck to see there, Aiden. We've got some Hyper Void, some Hyper Brawl tournaments, Mime Alive. We've got a juicy completion here of the Infamous games. All the Infamous is at 100%. Very nice to see. I still think, personally, my favorite of these games is definitely Infamous 2. I think that they really expanded on Cole in the second game, made him interesting, although I do really enjoy Festival of Blood being the like vampire spin-off DLC, like standalone DLC. It was very, very good, and First Light is definitely my least favorite of them. I just didn't like the arena shooter sort of high point scory time attack nature of that game. We've got Infinite Air 100%, which is a game I've never heard of. The thumbnail looks very, very interesting, and it is an ultra rare platinum, so juicy. Got some Injustices here. You've got the first game quite a ways in. You have recently, as of about a month ago, started the PS4 version of it too, which is interesting. I do know that this game is obviously very, very difficult. I do know that the DLC... is it Catwoman? Is Catwoman the one that is very, very tricky to get? Hold on, I'm now curious. Is it? Although it looks like there is no DLC. Maybe I'm just full of crap. Battle mode is very, very difficult. Where's the level 100? That's just farming XP. Okay, so it's just battle mode. It's just battle mode. Okay, so battle mode is the big hurdle, but I would say you've got it in you, mate. I reckon you've got this. Got some more cricket in International Cricket 2010. Some Invisimals, the Alliance. I have no clue what that is. It looks like you did not enjoy it being an E rank. In fact, I think these are our first 2 E ranks of the account so far, which is kind of cool to see that we got this far without seeing any. If it had been my account, we would have seen one like 2 seconds in. We've got another Invisibles here in the Lost Kingdom. Island Saver, It Takes Two. I predicted that we would see it. It's right here. You'll love to see it. One I definitely need to play at some point. We've got It's Spring Again, some Jack games. In fact, we've got all 3 Jacks. We don't have Combat Racing, which is like the spin-off Mario Kart Crash Tag Team Racing sort of battle racer. But you do have the 3 original games that are sort of semi-open world collectathons, which is very nice to see. It's a shame we haven't seen anything from that series since the PS2 era. We've got some Jigsaw games here in Abundance, Finale, and Solace. Joe Danger 2, the movie. I have no idea what that is, but it does have some unobtainables. Unfortunately, they're about the same amount that you have left, so I'm sorry to see that, mate. We've got some Journey, which is a very, very fun and unique game where you're essentially just exploring very large environments and collecting items. You've got to play through the whole game with another player, which I tried to do earlier this year and had heavy troubles getting. I am very impressed here. I love seeing these Just Causes. Just Cause 2, 3, and 4 100%. 4 is a bit of a crap game. But it is super impressive to see all of these. 3 being very difficult, some of those challenges. I definitely need to... I should go and do these at some point, because I do own 3 and 4. And I own the DLC for at least 3. I think I own it for 4 as well, but I'm not entirely sure there. Open world, third person, sort of over the shoulder. I never got used to the driving in Just Cause. It's very arcadey. I think you use the sticks to sort of move forward whilst also turning and stuff, and I always find that harder than, say, right trigger to accelerate. I always find that a bit trickier, but they're just dumb fun. It's fun to sort of go around and blow stuff up and zip line through tornadoes and all that sort of fun stuff. So congratulations for those 100%. I love to see those. This might be one of this 100% collection is unique. I think this is the first time we are seeing these on this series at completion. So congratulations there, Aiden. Definitely, this account has definitely been worth the wait so far. I do apologize that I'm doing this about 3 weeks after it should have been done. But this is some top tier account right here. We've got some Kickbeat, some Killing Floor 2 100%. This is another game I need to just sit down and do at some point. I love zombies, believe it or not. So this is definitely a good one to see. We've got some King Oddball, some King's Quest, some Kitten Squad, 300% in a row. Another thing that I love seeing on accounts. It's always nice to see back to back to back. We've got Knack here. This was like a weird launch title for the PlayStation 4 from memory. It's like but I do know it's super grindy and super RNG dependent. You've got to like get upgrades from chests, and I think those chests can take multiple runs to actually do. Knockout City. This was like a battle royale of sorts from memory. I think it might have even been made by Ubisoft from memory. Cheeky ultra rare platinum though, so that's always nice to see. We've got Kung Fu Panda, and it's the hard Kung Fu Panda, as you can see, sub 1% platinum. I believe Excellence in the Discord is going for this game at the moment, so shout out to Excellence, another absolute banger of a trophy hunter. But you smashed this out in a week and a day, which is actually very, very fast. That is pretty cool to see. Kung Fu Rabbits 100% there. Got LA Noire. The PS3 version is 100%. The VR version is not, however, on the PS4, which I believe takes out the open world aspect and just funnels the game down into the investigation. So you're handling just the crimes and you're not doing any of the driving between or the open world stuff, the getting the collectibles like the record discs, or was it newspapers from memory? I love LA Noire. Very, very interesting setting. 1950s LA was very, very interesting. And I loved how it's spread out over time. It's like a decade time period is sort of featured in the game. So you see architecture and stuff like that developing as you go. It's very, very cool. Highly recommend this game. LA Cops, I've never really heard of, to be perfectly honest with you. We've got some Tomb Raider here with Lara Croft and the Guardians of Light, Lara Croft and the Temple of Osiris. These are both like over the shoulder, almost like top down Lara Croft games are kind of interesting. And then Lara Croft Go is obviously like Hitman Go, the puzzle sliding sort of game. Layers of Fears 100%. I just need to sit down and do this myself at some point. I think during October I will polish off Layers of Fear. I would say, Aiden, I would recommend Layers of Fear 2 if you enjoyed the first game, which it's okay. The second game is definitely at least a little bit of an improvement. We're then getting into a big beefy burst of Lego games here. So we have DC Superheroes, Beyond Gotham, Super Villains, Harry Potter 1 to 4, Harry Potter 5 to 7, Indiana Jones The Adventure Continues, Marvel Superheroes, Lego the video game, Lego Ninjago the video game, Lego Rock Band, not complete. It's the only one so far that is not complete. Lego Star Wars 3 The Clone Wars, one of the underrated gems of the Lego series. Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens. A glitch. This one doesn't exist right here. Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. This is a glitch. This does not exist. Lego The Lord of the Rings, and to wrap it all off, everyone's favorite steaming dump, Lego Worlds. I've done a fraction of this list. Unfortunately, I've done the newer games, which are the bad ones. But you've done quite a lot. There's a few that you are missing. I don't see Pirates of the Caribbean here, which is, in my opinion, one of the better games. But it is very obvious that you love your Lego games, and Harry Potter's are really nice to see here. The Batman games are very nice to see. Lego Rock Band is super impressive. I would definitely be very impressed if you smashed out the last trophy between you and that juicy platinum. I always love to see Lego Star Wars 3, the Clone Wars. I loved that like grand scale battle stuff that they did. Skywalker Saga. I would be interested to see what you thought of the game. For me personally, I think it is actually my most disappointing game of the year. It's either that or Horizon Forbidden West. And then Lego Worlds, we share that platinum. I've done that one for reasons. What makes Lego Worlds as rare as it is you've got to get to 1 million studs in currency. But unlike the rest of the series where you've got multipliers that make the amount that you pick up stack, this game doesn't have that. So the way to do it is you dig a hole, you put a brick over your head, or it's a series of safes from memory, and you just drop them on your head for 10 hours. And it's miserable. I don't recommend it. Got some Lemmings Touch, some Letter Quest, level 22. Licky the Lucky Lizard lives again. That's a tongue twister. We've only got 2 Life is Strangers in the first game and the spin-off of the first game, which is interesting to see there. I would definitely recommend True Colors. Life is Strange 2 I haven't tried myself personally because I have standards. Limbo, you've done everything but I assume the 5 beat the game in 5 deaths or less trophy. Let's have a look here. Complete the game in 1 sitting with 5 or less deaths. I'm a genius. But it's a very good game. Definitely one that I need to sit down and do myself at some point. Little Nightmares, you've only done a couple trophies. I am interested here. I love Little Nightmares. I would definitely recommend Little Nightmares 2. Yeah, so you haven't even... I don't even think you've beaten the game. I don't think you've beaten the game here. Aiden, get onto it. It's brilliant. I love that game. I loved Little Nightmares 2 quite a bit as well. I do need to go back and get that 100% myself. There's a very difficult trophy that involves a speed run. I believe you can cloud save to cheese it a little bit, but definitely very impressive. We've got some Little Big Planet here, and the fact that the first game is unobtainable, the second one is also unobtainable, as is Carding due to server closures. These were games where people could make their own levels and upload them, and you could play them, and then progression for trophies. Kind of like, I believe, Dreams these days is quite similar. Very cool concept, though. I am then seeing... my longest incomplete game, personally, is Lords of the Fallen. I find it interesting that you have this, because we didn't see any Dark Souls. So you have Lords of the Fallen, but no Dark Souls. Are you okay? Do you need a hug, man? Are you alright? Lords of the Fallen, bad game. I did not enjoy this game at all. It looks like you didn't enjoy it at all, because we're looking at a 4-year completion, which I think I'm actually going to be beating you on now, because I started that in February of 2019, and I think I'm going to overtake you for longest completion, longest time to complete on Lords of the Fallen. I'm saving it for my 10,000th platinum trophy. Is what I tell people, just because I just never want to go back to that. Lovers in a Dangerous Space-Time, ultra rare, you love to see it. Mad Max's servers have shut, so you can't get the trophy involving scrap anymore. Which was buggy anyway, previous to launch. Very, very fun game. It was an open world game. I love the vehicle combat in Mad Max quite a bit. It had Arkham game kind of like combat, so the parry and the fighting system was very Arkham Asylum, because they're made by Warner Brothers, obviously. We've got some Mad Riders. We've got 2 Mafia games. We don't have the first game remastered. You have done the 1,000 miles in the I think it's the Joe DLC in Mafia 2. So I'm actually super impressed by that, because that trophy sucks. There is a lot of just letting your console fall through the map to rack up miles and then praying it doesn't crash after 12 hours. Mafia 3, unobtainable apparently. I don't think it's fully unobtainable. I just think it is heavily glitchy, but I could obviously be wrong. Got some Magic Orbs, Man-Eaters 100% on the PS5. I can only imagine just how vibrating this could... And I'm knocking everything over on my desk, but I can only imagine just how vibrating that controller would have been with the haptic feedback for the entire game. I did the DLC on the PS5, and my hands have never recovered. Manuel Samuel, this is an interesting sort of rhythm sort of game to see here. Some Marquette, which was a puzzle game that was free on PS Plus. We've got some Spider-Man here in the original, and Miles Morales twice, which is really cool. Miles Morales obviously being an auto pop, as you can see there, but I don't have issues with auto pops. In my opinion, you've done it. You've done the requirements. May as well. I don't really do them too much myself. The only auto pops that I have are 2 stacks of Fall Guys, one of which was intentional and one of which I just wanted to play the game drunk and pick the wrong version. I didn't even know about it. I had a good friend of mine pointed out that I had the stack because I just had no idea. But I need to do Miles Morales at some point. I've heard very, very good things, and I'm not a superhero person. I haven't even watched the first Avengers movie, so that's how badly I'm going. But I've heard very good things about Miles Morales, and I do have access to it. So maybe I do that soon, and maybe I make a video for the channel. No promises, because I'm very bad at holding my commitments to videos that I make on the channel. I've made like 7 videos that I just never released. Do let me know if you want to see my Assassin's Creed Platinums ranked, because I made that video like a month ago and never released it. But we're then moving into some Mass Effects here with 1, 2, and 3 100%ed. No Andromeda. This is also the originals on the PS3 and not the remasters, which is really interesting to see here. We've got some Matchpoint Tennis Championships. Again, I'm really, really enjoying seeing all these sports games and the variety of them. We've had lacrosse, we've had tennis, we've had handball, we've had cricket a million times, some races. I'm going to be very sad if we don't see any rugby. We then got Max Payne 3. You did well before the server shut down. The multiplayer is obviously all unobtainable now. Max Payne 3, very notoriously difficult because of the, I think it's New York Minute Trophy, where essentially you have a minute to live, and the only way you can extend that is by killing people. But if you die, you go back to the very start of the game. Very tricky, but you clearly smashed that out in reasonable time too, with 8 months. We've got Medal of Honor Warfighter. This was one of the remastered Medal of Honors. I believe this was the second one and the last one that they made. 1.47% platinum. There was a time when Medal of Honor was everywhere, and I missed that time because Medal of Honor were great games. Frontline being one of my fondest games I played as a child, which is terrifying now that I think about it. We've got Memory Lane 1 and 2. We've got some Mercenaries 2, The World of Flames. This is a third-person shooter from memory. That I think came out on the 360 originally. We've got some Metal Gear here with Guns of the Patriots kind of dabbled in. Ground Zero's 100%. This was like the prelude to Phantom Pain, as you can see here, which is sitting at a 16%. We've got Metro 2023 and Last Light, which are 2 amazing games set in an apocalyptic Russia. You're essentially down in the metro, which was affected by the nuclear apocalypse, but to a point where people can still live down there, but you see a lot of mutated monsters and stuff. There's a lot of political divisions and stuff like that. It is an amazing series. Highly recommend that one. I do need to do the last DLC for Metro Exodus at some point. Maybe I download that today and just knock that out, because I think it's like 5 hours. We've got Middle of Earth here with both Shadow of Mordor's in the first one and the Game of the Year edition. That DLC is very, very tricky. The Hunt is My Mistress is one that I'm dreading doing one day. These are kind of like Mad Max, made by the same devs. It's a similar sort of combat. You're in Mordor as a fallen ranger who has merged with the ghost of the elven smith Celebrimbor. If you want Lord of the Rings content, play these. Don't watch the Amazon show. That butchers the lore worse than Shadow of War here, which was a game that I was furious that it butchered the lore. Now it's a masterpiece in my eyes. I need to go back and finish this too, because I know that it does have... It's got multiplayer, like there's some leaderboard thing for Conquest, and I am low-key worried that this is one that will shut at some point in the near future. It's not been announced or anything, but it is one I have a hunch over. So maybe I should go back and wrap that up too at some point. We've got 2 Easy Peasies in Midnight Deluxe here. We've got the Vita stack of Minecraft. You haven't done one of the DLCs by the look of it, but it is the Vita one, which means they aren't releasing any of the current DLCs, I believe, which is kind of nice. You did it in 3 days and 6 hours, which makes me think that you might have used a realm to essentially auto-pop quite a lot of it. Do correct me if I'm wrong, of course. Mirror's Edge and Mirror's Edge Catalyst are the first-person obstacle parkour sort of time trial games. Very, very fun games. I played briefly bits of Mirror's Edge. I've never played Catalyst, which is one that I have wanted to play at some point. Very, very fun. They remind me of the parkour in Dying Light, but better. We've got some Monster Energy Supercross here, which is motorbike racing sponsored by Monster. I think there's like 3 or 4 of these games now. The third one just came out on Plus Extra, I believe, and these are games that I kind of want to play too because I low-key love a good Monster Energy drink. Probably why I'm bold at 25. We've got some Monster Jam Battlegrounds, some MotoGP. I know Dragon Dance will love to see these here in compact. 14 and 15. I just can't count. I read that as the same game twice on the EU stack, and I was super confused for a second. We've got some MotoStorm in RC and Apocalypse here. Both very, very good motorbike racing games. I think I owned one of these on Xbox way back in the day. We've got some Mousecraft, which I have no idea what that is. Move Street Cricket. It's essentially just backyard cricket. Multiverses is the current, like, is it Nickelodeon? Are they the ones that own the rights to this? But it's one of those like Smash Brothers clones using popular characters such as Batman and Shaggy, believe it or not. We've got some Murder Soul Suspect, which to this day I still don't remember this Platinum. I have it myself. I don't remember it at all. Some more MotoGP here wait, what? Oh, MXGP. Okay. Slightly different, but essentially the same game. 2 more stacks of it here. That hurt my brain for a sec. I need to sit down. That hurt. We've got some Juicy Mayonnaise here. I always love to see the stack. You've got the series completion. It's beautiful in its own awful way. At least it's not the current Easy Peasies. God, some of that stuff going into the new releases on PSNP, you're a brave man if you go in there. And then we're rounding into the NBAs. We then move into the NBA games here with 13, 17 the Prelude, 18 the Prelude, 19 the Prelude. These being like very quick, essentially introductories to their respective NBA games that came out that year. They usually were only up for like 2-3 sort of months, as you can see, with the servers then making, I mean, this one is all unobtainables. We then get some Need for Speeds. Got some racing games, got some sports games. There is a nice mix of things here. Heat is being done, which is a game that I kind of want to really do myself. It being on PS Plus for this month that is just now going by, September 2022. Heard very, very good things about it. I also did a YouTube short about it, so do check that out. Shameless plug is shameless. We then get some Payback here, some Hot Pursuit, Most Wanted on the PS3, which I don't believe is a port of the original Most Wanted on the original Xbox. I think they're actually 2 different games, which is confusing. Rivals, Shift and Shift 2, both of which do have unattainable trophies because of server closures, but the rest of them are all up, and they are relatively fun games. I used to really enjoy some of those older Need for Speeds like Underground 1 and 2 and the original Most Wanted. Never Alone is here. We've got some Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl. This is the Nickelodeon Smash Bros. 1, not Multiverse, but same concept with the Multiverse 2, essentially just Smash Bros. Clones. We've got some Octodad here, which is another one that I really enjoy, where you play as a giant octopus who has a family of humans and must do a bunch of tasks without being caught as an octopus. It is very, very fun. The controls are very, very challenging, but quite enjoyable, and you can do it fairly quickly. As you can see, Aiden did it in 2 hours, which is very fast. You're very good at being an octopus, mate. We then get some Oddworld here, which is another one that you sort of just dabbled in a little bit, but clearly didn't enjoy that much. Ollie Ollie is a skateboarding game. It's like a side-scrolling skater game where you can do a bunch of tricks to get skills and stuff. Same with Ollie Ollie World and Ollie Ollie 2, which is one that my good friend Peter from Missing Collectible got the platinum in this year. So nice work there. Very, very impressive. Sub 1% platinum right there. Definitely talented people get those platinums, unlike people like myself. We then get some Olympic Games. Wow, we've got a real variety of sports here with London 2012, Tokyo 2020, and the Winter Games of Vancouver 2010, which is Really impressive, and some good ultra rares again. London is a 3.5 and Vancouver is a 4.87, which is kind of cool. I imagine there's probably some multiplayer, which makes those a bit tricky. We've got some Onrush here, which is one that I believe half of the Platinum Standard does not enjoy, based on recent conversations in there. We've got some Operation Tango, which a good friend of mine, I think, is the fastest achiever of this game. This is a co-op one where one of you is a spy in the field and the other one's kind of like their man at the computer. They must work together to get through all of the challenges. Outer Wilds, you've dabbled in but didn't get too far. Now, be honest with me. You enjoyed the actual game and you hated the rocket ship, didn't you? I can tell. I know this. Also, you did that game on my birthday, which is kind of cool. We got Outlast 100%, which is one I was actually, funny enough, looking at going back to earlier today. So nice work there. Are you planning on doing Outlast 2 perhaps? Very, very tricky platinum, that one. We've got some Overcooked here in Overcooked 2, and All You Can Eat, which is a combination of the first two games. You and up to 3 other people can work together in various different kitchens, various different scenarios to try and get 3 stars and satisfy all of your customers. We've got some Paint Park Plus, which I believe is kind of just an easy peasy sort of little Vita game. Some Puppo and Yo, some Paraiso Island, some Paw Patrol on a Roll, which I believe is like a kids TV show tie-in sort of game. PDC World Championship Darts. That's the second darts game that we've seen. I am amazed that we're only seeing one PGA game here. PGA being golf, of course. I was actually expecting to see quite a large lineup of those, so I am kind of surprised. Some Pick-a-Pix colors, some Pirate Flights, Pixel Junk, Nom Nom Galaxies, some Plants vs. Zombies. This is the 3rd game in the series. I believe 1 and 3 are both obtainable, but 2 is tragically unobtainable. Some PlayStation Home and All-Stars Battle Royale, both of which have had server closures to make these unobtainable. As you can see, Home is entirely unobtainable. PlayStation VR Worlds, you've dabbled in enough to get the A rank. It is a sub 1% platinum, so there's definitely one I would be very impressed to see you maybe get in the near future. Predator Hunting Grounds, this was a recent platinum for myself as well. Did you have issues with it being a glitchy, like, did you have issues getting the trophies to pop is what I'm trying to ask? Because I did. The level 100 trophy popped at like level 125. 100 quick play was my final trophy, and I did well over 100 of those. Yeah. Love the game. I thought the game was a lot of fun. Essentially, a team of 4 players goes up against one predator. The fire team, the Marines, have to do like a bunch of different objectives on the map. They've got to fight off waves of AI mercenaries, all while the predator tries to hunt them down. Very fun concept. Very well done. Trophies were a mess. They were bad. They were bad. We've got some Prince of Persia here with the Prince of Persia and the Sands of Time, these games being the sort of predecessors to Assassin's Creed. We've got some more pairs here in 2013 and 14, 13 being unobtainable, as you can see here. We've got some Project Cars, which I believe is Ubisoft, if I'm not mistaken. The first game is unobtainable due to licensing. Second game, however, is still up. Some very lovely ultra rares. In fact, it's a streak of them if you include the Pezzas. Look at that. 2.23, 4.97, 1.77, and 3.77. Got some Proteus. We've got some Prototype, which is kind of like R-rated Infamous. You essentially play as a guy with mutant superpowers who tears everything to shreds. Psycho Pass is a visual novel that was free on PS Plus. Yeah, around when you got it, I think. I know it requires quite a lot of endings to achieve. Some Psychonauts, some BMX racing here, some Puppeteers, Pure. Wow, that is a racing game I've not thought about in a very long time. I actually played a bit of Pure way back in the day. Some puzzle game, Race for the Sun. I have no idea what that is, to be perfectly honest with you, but these completion rates are super impressive. Racket Sports, I believe, is like a combination of like tennis and bowling and stuff, kind of like Wii Sports. Again, sub 1% platinum. Love to see them. This is a juicy platinum if you love your rare plats. Account if you love your rare plats, rather. Ragdoll Kung Fu Fist of Plastic. That's a name. We've got some Rain, some Rainbow Moon. Oh, here we go. Wow, that is a big collection of Ratchet and Clanks. We've got the first game, we've got the 2016 movie tie-in / remaster of the first game, 2 Going Commando, 3 Up Your Arsenal, 4 A Crack in Time, All for One, Full Frontal Assault, Into the Nexus, and the PS5 exclusive Rift Apart. Very fun games. These are obviously multiple world / hubs where you go in and beat the story and do a lot of like collectible stuff. Obviously a strong mascot for the original PlayStation 2 and the PlayStation 3. There were quite a few releases there. PlayStation 4 only had the 2016 game. The PS5 so far has just had Rift Apart, which personally wasn't my favorite that I've played. I think Up Your Arsenal and Going Commando are pretty unbeatable. Those two are pretty fantastic, at least for me personally. But definitely love to see that full completion. I think you've got all of them there, which is very, very nice to see. I love it. I love it. And then to get some Rayman in Legends and Origins. Legends being the one that takes several months, I believe, due to dailies. Origins, I'm not entirely sure. We then get Red Dead 1, just the Platinum, not the 100%, which fair enough. I know some of those gambling trophies can be very, very difficult. Red Dead 2, however, you've Platinum, which amazing game. I was always very skeptical to see if Arthur Morgan could live up to John Marston. In my opinion, he not only did that, but is a better character. I quite frankly adore Red Dead 2. We then get into some Remember Me. We then get some Resident Evils with 500%, which is no easy feat because the multiplayer is very annoying, especially on the PS3 where the requirements are doubled. I actually did the PS4's multiplayer very recently with some good friends of mine. Resident Evil 6, again, a lot of multiplayer and a very just kind of not a good Resident Evil, but a good action game. Essentially, think if Resident Evil was made by Michael Bay, that is Resident Evil 6. We then have 700%, which again, some beefy DLCs there. I did my Platinum journey of Resident Evil 7 on the channel, so if you want to see my experiences with that game, do give it a watch. Very, very fun game, spoilers. But the DLC I have not yet tried. Definitely DLC I need to go back and do at some point. And then Villages 100% for now, because they will be releasing DLC next month, I think. I think it's next month. Retro City Rampage, Return of the Obra Dinn. This game is amazing. Now, I will say, Aiden, you're in trouble. 1 hour and 15 minutes. Use a guide, didn't you? I'm on you. Got my eyes on you. Obra Dinn is one of those games where I would recommend just not using a guide at all and trying to work it out yourself, because there are so many ways to identify those crew members. And it is, it's just such a perfect game. It's one of my favorite games ever. So definitely one I would highly recommend people do. If you play it legit, it'll probably take you about 10 hours. If you just use a guide, you can do it obviously in 1 hour. We've then got Returnal, which is kind of like a roguelike, a third-person shooter roguelike of sorts. Clearly you weren't the biggest fan of it. I probably won't be the biggest fan of it either, given my dislike of Hades. We then have Ride 2, Ride 3, and Ride 4, all motorbike racing games, all fairly good Platinums too, with Ride 4 being nearly an ultra rare, just shy of being an ultra rare. Rime was the first Platinum that I have on Symmetry. This is like a third person kind of adventure game. It's an indie artsy little game. It's nothing too difficult, but it is quite a lot of fun. We've got some Riptide games here with GP Renegade 2, Rise of the Tomb Raider is here. You've done all of the skill attacks, all the time attacks. You even dealt with those awful card system in this game. I need to go back and clean that up myself at some point, because this is another one I'm low-key kind of worried the servers will close on at some point. We've got some Rock Band 4. You like your music games, it's always nice to see. This one is still fully obtainable, so you've been working on it as recently as this year. 1.62 Platinum would be very, very nice to see. We've got some Rocket Arena. Some Rocket League 100%, you dealt with all of those millions of DLCs. Roy McIlroy's PGA Tour, this is another golf game. It does have some unobtainable trophies due to server closures. We've got Run Sackboy Run and Sackboy Adventures. Sackboy Adventures being the spin-off to Little Big Planet, where you play as the mascot through a bunch of 3D platforming environments. It's one that I want to do myself at some point. I've heard this game is very, very fun to do with friends and such. We've then got some Saints Row games here with 4, Get Out of Hell, and the third. I would be interested to see if you do want to tackle that very, very average remaster, spiritual successor, reshaping of history game that came out very recently. These being open world GTA clones of sorts. The Get Out of Hell being set in hell and being very, very average. The rest of them I highly recommend. Santa's Workshop, this is an easy peasy, hence the sub 5% time for a 99.44% completion rate, which is crazy. We then get Serial Cleaner, which I believe is a game where you go into crime scenes and have to clean it up and avoid the police or something like that. Severed is here as well. This is a very, very good Vita game. Shadow of the Tomb Raider is 100%. This is very similar to Rise of the Tomb Raider, only the challenges are considerably easier. We then have Shadow Warrior 3, Sherlock Holmes. Shadow Warrior 3 was actually a lot of fun. It was free on PS Plus. It now no longer is, sadly, but it was kind of like a first-person hack and slash combat sort of game. Very, very fun. I really enjoyed it. Sherlock Holmes, these are, you play as the titular character Sherlock Holmes as you solve different crimes and investigations. Got some Setsumi, some SingStar, some Skate 3, SingStar and Skate 3 both being unobtainable due to server closures. Skyforce Anniversary is here. We've got some Sleeping Dogs 100%, which I love to see. I love this game so much. Sly Cooper Thieves in Time is the only Sly Cooper, which is interesting to see. Slide is an easy peasy and one of the original easy peasies. Sniper Elite 4, you've got the Platinum. The DLC is actually quite a lot of fun. I would definitely recommend giving this a go at some point, and the rest of the series. I love Sniper Elite as a whole. I would definitely recommend 2 and 3. I haven't had the chance to try 5 yet myself. Snooker Nation is Pool. Snowmotor racing game. Soma, very fun, 100%, where you essentially are at the bottom of the sea trying to work out how to get off the bottom of the sea. Sonic Generations is the only Sonic game, which is interesting to see. We've got some Sound Shapes. This is an original sort of easy peasy of sorts. Sparkle 2. Spec Ops The Line is an interesting third-person shooter that really goes into like how storytelling affects who the bad guys are, which is an interesting sort of concept. It's definitely, I would say, one of my favorite shooters I've ever played. Got some Split Second, some SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom, which is the remaster of the original PS2 game. I believe this was free on Plus earlier this year, hence why you did it earlier this year. Sports Champions, Sports Friends, Spot the Difference. I love these 100%. I really, really do. Spy Chameleon is here. We've got all 3 remastered Spyros, which is really cool. Some SSX. We got some juicy Star Wars here. Battlefront 2, Fallen Order twice, one of which is the auto pop. Force Unleashed 1 and 2. 1 and 2 for Force Unleashed are very, very impressive because I do know A, the DLC is hard to track down, B, they're not the easiest games in the world to do, and C, they're awesome games. I adore the Force Unleashed. I never played the second game. I heard it wasn't quite as good as the first game, but I still am hopeful that I will get to try these at some point. Star Wars is here. This is a game where you're essentially trying to kill the other narwhals in space using your horn. You flip around. You can play with this with up to 4 other people. Very, very fun game. Very, very rare platinum. I would not have thought that was actually a difficult platinum, given that you could boost quite a lot of stuff. We've got Steep, which is the Ubisoft snowboarding game. It looks like the DLC is now obtainable. I do know that I believe it was the Olympics one was flagged as being unobtainable for a good while, so I am curious about that. Stories, The Path of Destinies, I'm not entirely sure what that is, but Stray is the cat game that I did a video on this channel for, so do go do go check that out if you are curious about my experiences with Stray. Styx Master of Shadows, you sort of started it but didn't really enjoy it too much, I'm assuming. Some Merge, some Super Destronaut DX, these are Retallica easy peasies. Super Exploding Zoo, we got Super Meat Boy, you've done over 50% of the trophies, which is super impressive. I always love seeing Super Meat Boy complete we've seen it a couple times on this series, I think. We've seen that a couple of times, but you've done an amazing job at over 50% of the trophies. I assume it's the deathless runs on like Cotton Alley and stuff. Got some Super Time Force Ultimate, some Supersonic Acrobat Rock Powered Battle Cars, which is the predecessor of Rocket League, made by the same developers. Siberia is a game where it's worth a fortune physically these days. We've got some Tabletop Racing World Tour, which is a racing game I've always been somewhat curious about. Some Tabletop Cricket. I also just realized we didn't see any rugby games, which makes me very sad. We've got some Tales of the Borderlands, as you can see, digital copy right there, which I was mentioning before with the RRR earlier. This is Telltale's little version of Borderlands, which I think they've announced a sequel very, very recently, actually. We've got some Team Sonic Racing, some Tearaway, which is like, think like Super Mario 64-ish, but the world is made out of like little bits of paper and stuff like that. I actually really want to play Tearaway Unfolded, the PS4 remaster. We've got some Tekken, we've got some more Tennis in the Face and World Tour. Tesla Grad. We've got some Test Drive 2 Unlimited. The Artful Escape. This is a game where you just run right and occasionally do some quick time events. I didn't think too much about it, but Carl Weathers is in it, so that's cool. The Book of Unwritten Tales. I'm not entirely sure what that is. The Bridge is an interesting one because it's based on a bunch of puzzles. You're essentially trying to solve a bunch of puzzles, but it is very, very tricky. I remember getting to the last puzzle on my old account, Mud Stuff, and essentially being stuffed for it. I just could not beat it at all. The Bunker, this is kind of like a movie sort of game. The Catch Carp and Course, this is fishing. We've now added fishing to our list of hobbies and sports that we've seen here. We've got the Crew 2. We don't have the first Crew, which is interesting. I believe it might be unobtainable or is going unobtainable. I'm not entirely sure. I'd have to check the server closures in the Platinum Standard. The Cube. We then have the Dark Pictures Anthology in Man of Medan, Little Hope, and House of Ashes. I would be interested to see if you plan on doing The Quarry at some point. The most recent game from those developers. They also made Until Dawn, which I assume we're going to see further below. The Deadly Tower Monsters. Ooh, The Evil Within. That's an E rank. You started that, and I'm guessing you decided it was horrible and stopped. I had a very similar experience myself. It's one that I probably will clean up sometime over the next month, given that it's spooky month. We then have Jackbox Party Pack 2, The Last of Us 1 and 2, 1 being on the PS3, where the multiplayer servers have since been closed. I think you did it right before the servers closed. The Little Acre, The Order 1886, I've talked about that game in depth quite a bit on this series. The Park is a very fun, short indie sort of horror game where you explore a theme park looking for your son. I think this was actually my first completion on Symmetry, weirdly enough. The Playroom and the Playroom VR, both interesting like little games that sort of demonstrate the hardware capabilities of their respective consoles. Saboteur was a very, very fun Assassin's Creed sort of inspired game in occupied Paris during the World War. It was really cool where it was in black and white until you liberated a region, and then that region got color, which was a really cool concept. I adore the Saboteur, actually. I really wish that this would get a remaster or some love, because it was very, very good. We've got The Sims 4, The Swapper, The Swindle, The Unfinished Swan. We then got only a couple Walking Deads. Okay. Walking Dead 1 and then Season 2. You haven't bothered to continue the rest of the series at all. We've got some Tiger Woods PGA here with quite a few unobtainable trophies. This is more golf. Tiny Troopers Joint Ops, some Titan Attack, Titan Souls, and Titanfall 2. You did the Gauntlet, which is very, very impressive. I've been very lazy about sitting down and starting the Gauntlet. You've got to beat it in under 33 seconds, I believe it is. The closest I ever got was like 36 seconds. Very lazy, very lazy. Tokyo Jungle, we got some Tom Clancy, the original Tomb Raider on the PS3. All I need to say about that is medkits. We've got some Torque, some Tower of Guns. Trackmania Turbo is a very impressive one. Wow. I love seeing that one right there. Trackmania Turbo, 0.64%. I'm sure a few people in the Discord, such as Dragon Dance and Mr. Dorothy, will be very impressed to see those right there. We've got some Transistors, some Trine 2, Trivia for Dummies, Tropico. I'm gonna suggest that you've got the multiplayer done right there. Tropico is kind of like a SimCity builder of sorts where you play as a dictator of an island. So you've got to worry about different political campaigns and stuff as well. I've done quite a bit of this game. I do need to finish it. I haven't finished the campaign. But it's fun. The UI is awful. The UI is what really puts me off ever going back to that game. But it's one that I definitely do need to go back to. Got some truck races, some Truth or Lies, Typewriter. We've got some UFC now here, with UFC 2009 Undisputed. We then have Ultron Uncanny Valley, which was like a pixelated side scroll of sorts that I personally found a bit glitchy. I did it on my old account, Mud Stuff, and I do want to do Uncanny Valley on this account at some point though. We then get quite a large burst of Uncharted here. We've got 2 and 3 on the PS3. Their multiplayer's obviously been shut down and untenable for a few years now. You've also done 1, 2, and 3 and 4 on the PS4. You haven't done all of 4's DLC, which is like this survival sort of wave-based thing. It's not very good. It was kind of very heavily pay to win, but 96% is definitely super impressive all the same. And then you have also done the spin-off in Golden Abyss and the tie-in in Lost Legacy, which was a very, very, in my opinion, one of the best ones. I love Lost Legacy. Under Night in Birth, EXE Late. We've got some Unearthed Trial of Ibn Battuta. Episode 1, no more episodes, so I am curious if that was ever finished or not. We got some Unmechanical Extended, some Unreal Tournament 3, again another one with unobtainables due to server closures. I knew we'd see some Until Dawn here, and we've got the VR on rail sort of linear thing in Russia Blood. Very impressive ultra rare platinum right there, 7 out of 10 for about 10 hours. We've got Valentino Rossi the game. This is some more F1. We've got some Valiant Hearts the Great War, which is another one that I've been very curious at doing myself. Vampire's another interesting one. It's made by the devs that did the Life is Strange games. You play as a doctor who is coming to terms with the fact that he's a vampire. You've got to beat the game without eating anyone. You've got to then eat everyone. There's a lot of sort of save scumming to get quite a few of the trophies, but it's a fun game. I definitely found it very buggy towards the end though. We've got some Vanquish, which is very, very difficult, so it's impressive to see that you're only missing essentially 2 trophies before the platinum. Some Vessels, some Valetti Gucci. Not entirely sure what that is. We've got some Virginia, which is like an on-rails walking sim of sorts that I've not heard good things about. We've got some Wanted Core, Watch Dogs 1 and 2, Ubisoft's open world GTA clones. I love the first Watch Dogs and the second Watch Dogs. Shame they never made more games in the series. We've got some We Were Here Together and 2. These are co-op games, kind of like It Takes Two and A Way Out, where you're in a giant mansion and have to solve puzzles together to escape. Got some Welcome Park, which is the Vita's version of PlayStation Home. What Remains of Edith Finch is an interesting one. I believe they just released this game on the PS5 with a platinum. This is a walking sim where you discover the fates of a family that lived in a house. Wheel of Fortune is here. Some Wheelman, which I believe is a movie tie-in game. I'm not entirely sure what Wheels of Aurelia is. Wipeout Omega Collection is super impressive, actually. This is a very fast-paced action racer, kind of like Crash Bandicoot and Mario Kart, but hard. We've got some Wolfenstein Cyberpilot, which is a VR Wolfenstein game. Interesting that it's your only Wolfenstein game. And then we've got quite a lot of Paugi here with some word search and some Sudoku. We've got some racing games here. Ooh, we got the double stack of Wreckfest. You know I love my Wreckfest, so this is very impressive to see here. I love the soundtrack in Wreckfest so much. We then have some WWE 2K Battlegrounds, which I believe was free on PS Plus. It's a very disappointing WWE game. X-Blade Lost Memories, Zeo Drifter, some Exposed, You're Being Followed. Am I? That's disturbing. And then we're rounding it out with some Zombie, which was Ubisoft's like semi-open world but fairly linear zombie apocalypse game in London. It's got a really cool concept where when your character dies, they become a zombie. So you've got to use a new character to go get your gear back off of the old character's zombie. And then we're finishing up with a double stack of Zombie Driver. So that was very impressive. That might be the longest list I've done on this account. This might end up being the longest video I've done on this series, which will be very impressive. Let's go have a look at the stats real quick. So we'll do a cheeky scroll up here. We're going to go to the stats. So as you can see, 669 games, giggity, for a 37.28% rarity. That is very impressive. That might be one of the lowest ones so far. I think. Oh, Beautiful Torment might. There's some stiff competition, but I think this is one of the rarest ones we've seen, which is very, very cool. Vigilant Crow, I'm sure you'll appreciate that. We then have 91% completion rate overall, although the count overall does say that it's a 90.81% completion rate, so I'm not entirely sure why there is a full percent difference there, essentially. And then monthly activity is fairly consistent all the way, which is very impressive to see. But Aiden, thank you so much for letting me look at the account. I really enjoyed this one. I really enjoyed the variety of 100% sports games, and a mix of sports games was really cool. Banana Sausage being another one of the accounts I can think of that had quite a variety of sports games. But I also do apologize that this one took so long to get out. Following the list, this would have come out about 3 weeks ago. However, I had a spontaneous move and stuff like this. So if you are curious as to why the list hasn't been followed as strictly, if IRL events do kick in, then I typically will do a shorter account just so that there is a video each week, but I will always get to the accounts that are due in time. But if you would like your own account looked at, do leave it in the comments below or join the Platinum Standard Discord. The link is in the description below, and I will see you next week for episode 19. I miss you already. Hugs and kisses. Goodbye.